Okay, round two. And for those who haven't been following along, 2-inch thick by 5-inch wide, roughly, pallet fork. And super bitchin' koike handy auto motorized torch. Well, I guess I'll preheat it first and come. Well, that didn't go like I had hoped. Alright, let's try another. Well, I don't like that either. Maybe you could see I was playing with the speed there. Okay, turned the oxygen pressure up. I mean, granted, it's going pretty good when you're rather disappointed with that, but gonna go for one more. Fuck. God damn it. I mean, is it just too fast? Fuck. Okay. God damn it. One more. Okay, I slowed it down a little bit. I'm really kind of irritated about that. So this guy's still got this really thick powder coating on it, which shouldn't make a difference with that. But what the fuck is going on? Okay, but I'll let that cool off and I guess try again tomorrow on it. But if anybody has any input or advice, let me know. So I was watching the video back, like watching the video that I just took of cutting there and I didn't notice it at the time, but it seemed like the tip was a little bit dirty, like it had a little bit of shit in it, and it looks really clean right now, but go figure, took it out of the torch. But when it was in there, I almost saw like a little ball of slag or something in the tip. This is essentially a brand new tip, pretty much. Whoop! God damn it! Really, the first time this was the first time that I used it. Oh, nice! Put a nice little nick in it. Still round though. Fuck me. But in so I have far less experience with acetylene, I have far less experience with propane than I do acetylene, and in my limited experience so far, I feel like it's harder to tell when you have got a nice clean tip on propane versus acetylene. With acetylene, if the tip's all nice and clean, you'll get a really nice, like, long 3-foot flame coming out of it. And then if really anything happens to the tip, then that flame will shoot right back up. And, you might only have a 3-inch long flame when you hit the cut-in oxygen. You still get the ripping sound with propane, but it just seems a little bit harder to tell. But, hey, experience, and the more you fuck with it and everything, then the better you'll get with it. So the other thing that I was going to do too is I was curious to try a number 1 tip, cutting those pallet forks, and see how that does. Just like I said, fucking around with it. But first of all, I think what I'm going to do is clean up this this number 3 that I have, and see if I get better results. Holy shit, this is hard to do one-handed. Yeah, I'm gonna clean up that number 3 tip first and see how that does. But like I said, just watching the video back there, it seemed like the tip had gotten a little bit of shit in it. And then I have a couple of the, coupons or whatever you want to call, from the torch there, and I was noticing, so this here is the leading edge, and then this is coming down, and so, most of the fuck up on the cut is on the lower half of the cut. The upper portion on a lot of these, some of these you can't really see because they're covered in slag. Whoops. But most of these, that seems to be the case, where, it looks not necessarily good, but it looks better on top than it does further down. So I'm assuming that that's what the problem was. But I really love when things are working right, that the fucking slag just flakes off like that. Pretty cool. And I guess too, to show this here, same thing here where, the leading edge of it looks pretty good. Change the angle here. And then it gets more fucked as you go to the bottom. But yeah, so here's those pallet forks. And they're basically brand new. Hell, they still have the powder coat on them for the most part up until, it's really only the first foot or whatever that they wore off of. Pretty good sized pallet forks, as such. But, like I said, they're bent and the tips don't line up. And, so here's the, the eyes off the end of it. And if we look at this guy, nice and round. Not so round. Now, I don't know how much force you got to put on these things to bend them like that, but it's got to be a fair bit. So we're lined up on that side right there. And yeah, there you go. There's a pretty good gap there. Yeah. Feel like that took some power. But I'm not going to be lifting more than about probably 6,000 pounds with these things. So I think I should be in good shape and in the clear, and I guess I'll talk more about what my plan is with these later. The other thing that I was thinking too, because on a backhoe bucket, buddy of mine pointed out to me that, these don't need to be flat on the bottom side, because the cutting edge of the bucket's going to come to, I'm going to try and set it up for maybe about there, have 6-8 inches sticking out the bottom, which actually looks like that's about how it was before. But anyways, from the cutting edge up, the pallet forks don't have to be flat on the bottom, or not flat on the bottom, flat on the backside. So I could just as easily, kind of reinforce the backside a little bit. I don't want, anything protruding on the front side here, but the backside's no worries. So, yeah. Something I was going to say too is, yeah, for one, I got more experience with acetylene than propane. Which acetylene and propane are cutting with them are very similar, but there are some differences. But with at least a Victor tip, anyways, and the ones that I have, the acetylene tips are a solid chunk of copper. I would assume that these are machined out of a single piece of like copper bar stock. I would imagine would be the simplest way to make these. But copper is pretty soft, and like weld berries and shit will stick to copper relatively easily. Where the Victor propane tips are a two-piece, and the outer piece here is copper, but that's not, like, basically what this is just a cone, if you will. There's not there's no like internal features in this, where the spine of the tip is a machined section of brass. And again, I would assume that they machine this out of bar stock, but it seems to me, in my limited experience, that the propane tips are harder to foul than the the acetylene tips. I think the reason for that is because, brass being a harder material, that is just a little bit harder to fuck up. With acetylene, if you have mill scale on the steel or something like that, you didn't clean the mill scale off, and you go to preheat, and the mill scale pops back. When it pops back, it can get stuck in these little jets, and then you got to run a wire through it. And I haven't noticed that as, like, for one, I haven't noticed propane to pop the mill scale as much, but also it seems like it's harder to foul these tips. And I guess too, it's a lot easier to clean these tips when they do get fouled than the acetylene ones, because these are single piece and you can't take them apart. These here, you can very easily run your fingernail down these grooves, or a little razor blade knife, and the only hole in it is actually just the center jet. But yeah, I think that's what the problem was, is just a little bit fouled tip.